You're watching Telecom TV from SCWS World in London, and I'm joined now by Ervins Kampans, who is CTIO of Tele2 in Estonia. Ervins, thanks for joining us on Telecom TV. How is Tele2 using small cell technology?
We have a quite long history in using the small cells, especially in the Baltic markets. Tele2 quite used this nano GSM, femtos. So we use it for the residential market, and just recently I think that we get returned back to this discussion about whether we should use the small cells, because previously we were more or less taking into account the cost of deploying the cells and the cost of 3G and 4G. Okay, even before, I think before 2 years, nobody mentioned that there will be the small cells on the 4G. Everything was on the roadmaps in the pipeline, and nobody can tell what is the cost of that. But 3G was quite expensive. So, but right now we are returning back to this because we see that it's becoming as a mass market device. It's becoming cheaper to deploy. And I would not tell some kind of big rocket science. I think that first of all for us it's just a question about sorting out the residential customer hurdles about that they don't have coverage. And still, I would say for us it's still the question who will win, because even in this venue, there's still contradicting views. Whether the Wi-Fi still should continue as a main, I would say, coverage gap filler, because we already have the voice over Wi-Fi, thanks to the voice LTE. So the main idea about what to do with the voice is sorted out.
Is small cells still about extending and expanding coverage, or has it moved on to looking at new service delivery, new revenue opportunities?
Our view is that the small cell will help to run our core business that is still mainly based on the macro layer. So that's why there is all this discussion about the neutral host business model and about the challenges of the operators who don't have any spectrum, like TalkTalk in the UK, who wants to enter this spectrum through their houses. So for us it's more or less as we see that the small cells are helping us to fill the gaps and to deliver exceptional service for our customers. And also I would say that it's also the way that you can, if you have a proper business model, you can run the network cheaper and deliver the same capacity.
Do you think we'll ever see small cell networks and macro cell networks converge? Small cells getting more and more capacity, macro cells becoming smaller and smaller?
I would say that we are currently, like right now, see that the small cells are also growing into the capacity. So the humble beginnings of the small cells were, if I remember, like even for the 3G small cells or femtos was like 4 to 6 or 8 concurrent customer like users. Like currently we're already speaking about like 16, 42. So this system on chipset and this computational power of those small silicons are growing. So, and there is also a trend that also the macros are like them getting smaller, so they are more energy efficient. There are no like big, energy guzzling, big stacks of hardware that is just consuming immense amount of energy, sitting somewhere and need a specific cooling or whatsoever. So at the same time, I say that this some kind of this moving, and even in the 5G, we see that in the 5G we are also talking already about the dense network. That there's a macro and there's micro or femto, nano, so there's no difference. So by the end, I think that at the end we will lose, or there will be this disruption of understanding where does this macro ends, where the small starts. I don't see there's a big difference, because to my mind, I think that in the long term, we already are talking like 5G, it will be heterogeneous access. Who knows what the 6G will bring us?
Is there a reality check on using small cell technology, insofar as an operator has to deploy these small cells and has to site the small cells, and site rental is often quite expensive, and that affects payback?
For sure. I think for every mobile operator, or like for every operator who are having like working with the vendors, working with the landlords, I think it's most common issue is it, and the large part of the fixed costs are the rental costs, because usually we have to rent. We have to put somewhere all the gear that we are putting on, on the roofs, on the towers. We need a land, we need a backhaul. So actually, I think it's always this hidden part of the iceberg, because we can deploy the small cell, and then we start all the cryings about with whom we should agree where we can put, even if we want to put it on the lamppost. So who is the owner of the lamppost? How we can get there, whether we can get electricity connection, whether we can get like the best case fiber, I don't know, but maybe we can put some kind of microwave backhaul. And all those costs are stacking up. At the end, this like intense densification and putting those small cells, it also pays off only when you have a very, I would say, affordable rent prices.
And how do developments in C-RAN and virtualization affect this sector?
I would say that in short term that like the C-RAN or like this, I don't know, like baseband hosting, this base station hotels, it's coming up, but of course we are facing this lack of fiber. But on the other side, I would say that this black fiber availability is also increasing, and the operators are constantly investing into laying or renting or getting the additional fibers, because I would say that customers are also becoming very data hungry. In this case, I see that the C-RAN concept, within the next 2, 3 or 4 years, it will return back. And this will be very important challenger for the small cells, because even currently, right now, for the small cells, we're also talking that the best case scenario for small cell that the small cell has a fiber backhaul. But if we have a fiber already available, especially black fiber, so then we can just deploy the how to say remote radio unit, and the remote radio unit will be hooked up with an immense capacity of baseband that is laying with a macro. And also, I think that, and this is also gives a lot of in terms of from the radio planning, optimization and capacity, because then you can start to apply this newest technologies of this multiple point MIMO, because it's very easy to coordinate. It just sits in the same baseband. Then you can also start to use about this interference cancellation, because it's the same baseband, it's the same logical unit that is running. And the third part that is with the C-RAN is also brings is that you can have this liquid capacity. So whenever in this particular bus stop where you have extension, there is no people, so you dedicate this baseband capacity to the macro. If you see that the capacity is shifting, so this cell that is connected also get the more, how to say, horsepower to accommodate all the customers. So I think that for small cells, all this densification, remote radio unit, C-RAN, it's also as like, they are like, I wouldn't say the competition, I say the co-competition.
Ervins, thank you very much indeed.